Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I've got an unboxing of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip6. Let's get started. This is the new edition of this Samsung foldable vertical format. Let's be honest, there will be few changes from the last generation, but in a moment I'll tell you a little more in detail what has changed. For starters, the case obviously sports a different design. It's a nice design, but it's actually a very simple box. It doesn't have much content. So the unboxing could be very short, but that's why we will have special guests. First, let me tell you about the launch price, which in Mexico has been 24,999 pesos. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as over there, so come with me to take this device out of its box. And here we have the device out of its box so you can get to know it. In this case, it's the blue color edition, although there's a great color palette available. Also note that the crease area is almost unnoticeable when the device is practically new. Although surely with the passage of time by natural form, this screen will be a little more marked in this intermediate area. In a moment we'll bring up the last generation so you can see more or less the difference in design, because in this generation we'll find a slightly more refined design. So let's turn this device on and see what else comes in the box, which honestly is very little. For example, on this side of the box there's nothing else anymore. And on the other side of the box we're possibly going to find a little bit more content. As you can see, in this case there is the key to remove the SIM card tray, the USB-C to USB-C cable, which by the way is not very long to say the least, and finally nothing else, just the usual paperwork, additional information, and also here Samsung Care Plus promotion, which is the insurance that you can purchase. In fact, during the pre-sale stage, Samsung has been giving away this insurance for a year, which can give you a little bit more security in terms of accidentally damaging your phone. So that's all that's in the box. Honestly, it's a pretty empty box. If you want the charger, you will have to buy it separately, and likewise, if you want a case, you will have to buy it separately. Although also in the pre-sale stage, Samsung was giving away a case, so it's generally good to take advantage of Samsung's pre-sale stages because they include several things. So we're going to put this away again and focus on giving you the specs of this new device. And that's it. I've got the device here in my hand so you can see for yourself what its design looks like, because honestly it's very nice. This blue color option, I really like the way it looks. It's a pretty minimalist design by Samsung. Again, a smooth cover all around, but with a sincerely very nice color. Also, the camera rings are now colored. Take a look at what it looked like last generation, although you know these cases that you can put on these foldables later on are not so easy to remove because they have adhesives on them to prevent them from peeling off. So, excuse me for showing this device with a case on, but it's just that it's pretty complicated to remove the case once you put it on with the stickers. But I was telling you that the cameras now have this color ring. Honestly, it's a small aesthetic change, but also the main camera is now 50 megapixels and it's one of the few differences. This device is 6.9 millimeters thick when unfolded and 14.9 when folded. Evidently, like the last generation, there is no noticeable gap in this part. The hinge has a very nice design that also gives it a good rigidity and good solidity when you are trying to place it at different opening angles. The truth is that in that sense, I really like the experience it is able to give us. By the way, that little flicker you see on the screen is just because of the setting I have in the camera. I've already corrected it so you won't think it's a detail of the cell phone. It weighs 187 grams and obviously being a foldable, its main advantage is that it is much more compact to carry than a traditional smartphone, especially in small bags. It has Gorilla Glass Victus 2 to protect this external part. Armor, aluminum, and IP48 level of resistance against water. The internal screen has a size of 6.7 inches in its diagonal. Moreover, it has Full HD Plus resolution, Dynamic AMOLED 2X technology, and 120 Hz in its refresh rate. So, it is a very good screen. There is nothing to complain about this screen. In fact, it also has a very high brightness and also a very low brightness, so it becomes very comfortable. Even in this generation, it already has the adaptive color tone so that the white balance of the screen matches the white balance of the environment. In this case, it will use the camera to try to have the color reference. This is a feature that Samsung had not integrated, not even the last generation, so it is another new feature that we had not been told about. The external display is 3.4 inches in diagonal. It offers us a resolution of 720 by 748 pixels. It has Super AMOLED technology, but it is still a 60 Hz screen, so it does not show movements as fluid as if we could find it on the internal screen. So it's a screen that still doesn't look as professional. Remember that by default it offers access to some widgets and quick tools. But if you install Good Lock through the Galaxy Store, which is an official Samsung tool, you could also run any other app you want from that external screen. You just need to head over to the Live App section and then download the add-on called Multistar. Then you open this newly installed add-on, open I Love Galaxy Foldable, and here's the launcher widget, where you can add the apps you want the external screen to show you. In this case, I'm randomly adding several apps, just to show you how perfectly they work. Although first you must head to the settings, and in the cover screen settings you are going to add this widget that we just installed, then just click on it and that's it. You can also set it to be the first page and that's it. So that way we can already have any application open from this external screen, although having a slightly rectangular proportion may be that some applications look a little strange at times, but I tell you in general, yes, we will be able to run any application from this area. The front camera is 10 megapixels with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. I see it a little more focused on video calls because really for selfies it does not seem that it will give us a very good resolution. This is the preview before taking the test picture I make. It is very overexposed view, but after taking the picture makes a good balance of light and shadow. In that sense it behaves well. In fact, it also has a good level of detail, so it's not a bad camera, but obviously having the external system available, it's more advisable to take selfies with these cameras. You simply double press the power button and that's it. You can access the cameras, both the ultra wide and the main one, and you can even switch modes between video recording, normal photography or portrait mode. In fact, this new generation also includes an option so that when you use the device in this flex mode, this button appears and will automatically frame you with an automatic zoom option in case you want to use it, although personally I think it's easier to manually frame your photo, and of course you can simply show your hand to activate a timer and take your picture. That auto framing button is one of the new features as well that was not present in the last generation. And here on the outside we will find the 50 megapixel camera with f1.8 aperture and optical stabilization for the main camera, and then 12 megapixels with f2.2 aperture and fixed focus for the ultra wide camera. The truth is that here Samsung, I think it can do even better. If it were to offer us an ultra wide camera with autofocus, at least it would also have macro capabilities, but in this case, despite increasing the resolution of the main sensor, it still feels like a simple photographic system. Let's take a look at some pictures I captured. This one is with the ultra-wide camera, which as you can see seems to me to have a good quality. We don't see as many distortions as we noticed on the Galaxy Z Fold6. Here is the main camera, and it is also going to give us, of course, a good color, good detail in general, but do not consider that it is a specialist in photographs. Something novel that this device has is that with the 2x zoom setting, it is still able to maintain optical quality by applying a crop on the sensor. That's something that wasn't possible before because the sensor wasn't as high resolution before. So this is another new feature. Let's say that in the 2x zoom, it's going to have more quality than the last generation, and in general, in the maximum zoom, which is 10x, it's also going to have more quality. Samsung is debuting a new image engine that now doesn't exaggerate the sharpness as much, so it looks a little bit more natural looking even at maximum zoom, which is 10x. And note that it's also going to allow us to take portrait shots both with the prime lens setting and with a 2x telephoto perspective, again maintaining good image quality. So it takes good portrait pictures, although I insist once again it's not a camera specialist. For video recording, it can go up to 4K at 60 frames per second, both with the main camera and with the ultra-wide camera. In fact, the front camera can also record in that resolution. So in video recording, we do see something very good. And remember also that if you fold the device down, you can record, let's say, in a handycam format just by pressing over here. And this zoom slider is also new, unlike last generation. Although probably this kind of little details if you will receive them through an update. And obviously remember that you also have a button to activate the preview on the external display in case you want the other person to be able to see themselves. The same can be when you are taking pictures or also when you fold the device. Notice that the viewfinder fits perfectly and you can even move it to the bottom. By the way, it also has stereo sound with a speaker at the bottom and another one in the earpiece area for calls. The battery is now 4000 milliamps. That is another new feature that will be very important because in conjunction with a new processor will probably give a significant increase in battery life over the last generation, which could have been one of the main complaints. But obviously in the video review I will give you more specific figures and we will compare how last generation did as well. For now I can tell you that the increase is there. Although of course you have to buy the charger separately. It supports 25-watt charging, so it's not that spectacular of a charge either. Generally all Samsung devices take over an hour to charge. In storage we will find 256 gigabytes. Fresh out of the box it indicated to me 10% of this storage used, that is 26.2 gigabytes, and considering that it has artificial intelligence functions and many pre-installed tools, I think the consumption of internal storage is well controlled. It also integrates 12 gigabytes of RAM. That's very good news because you know that Samsung system usually consumes a lot of RAM. So the more RAM you have available, the smoother the device will feel even if you have a lot of applications open. In fact, it also has a RAM Plus in this case turned on by default, adding another 8 gigabytes. Although Samsung's RAM Plus, I've honestly never seen it work very well. I would advise you to turn that option off so as not to wear out your internal storage so much, and I don't think it makes much of a difference. Fortunately, on this model, the physical RAM is very large. It comes with Android 14 and One UI 6.1.1. So remember that it integrates a lot of Samsung's artificial intelligence features that are summarized in this part. It's able to translate calls for you in real time, even WhatsApp calls or other app calls. It can translate your WhatsApp chats or from other apps or help you to compose texts. It translates in real time without internet connection from other languages. It can also summarize notes, summarize voice recordings, summarize web pages. Obviously, the photo editor is what stands out the most, and it also includes the drawing assistant, although it does not support S Pen, but you can draw with your finger some element and the device will transform it. So there are several tools available that I will tell you in more detail in the video review. And finally, the processor is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy. A processor that is undoubtedly powerful, and I have a benchmark here so that you more or less have a reference. Note that in multi-core it was about to reach 7,000 points, so it's really very good. It is also worth noting that it has for the first time a vapor chamber. By first time I mean a Flip family device, because Samsung had already integrated a vapor chamber to try to cool the processor in other models. But it is remarkable to see the incorporation of this element in a device that seeks to be as compact as possible. So thanks to the vapor chamber we can get a high score and fairly consistent performance in this type of testing. On the other hand, in Antutu reached 1,564,316 points, which is also a high score, although for this processor it falls slightly short. Recall that Samsung, with respect to graphics processing, for example as for games, usually has a somewhat strange management and sometimes quite limits the power. Although through the Gaming Hub, if you are going to find an option to activate an alternative performance, although it could produce a little more heating, but ultimately if you can configure this way in the app section. However, I have never considered Samsung devices to be gaming specialists. That's probably one of the points where they still don't reach such a high performance. But if your priority is not to be playing 3D content with lots of textures and advanced stuff, actually the device is going to give you a very smooth performance. And to give you a reference of the evolution we found from one generation to another, look at the score we got back in the day on the Galaxy Z Flip6, 5,392 points on multicore. So that's about 1,500 additional points difference. In addition to the new processor, consumes less power and we found a larger battery. Although in other aspects it continues very similar as in the front camera, the size of the internal and external screen. In cameras, there is an increase in resolution that also improves the digital zoom. They maintain wireless charging, but none include charger. So in the video review, I will tell you more details of this device. For now, we have reached the end of this video. If you liked it, you know you can tell me about it, and I'll see you next time.